Hey folks, Jonathan here. Wanted to do a little update on my Elcar. It's on its way, and it actually should be here in about 3 hours, 4 hours. And I just wanted to show you some of the stuff that, well, one thing I got wrong, and just a little information here. In the this is actually the book on Elcars, and it's probably about, I guess it's the only book on Elcars. But the guy that wrote this is actually a collector, and he's kept close track of all of them. So first thing I'm going to show you, I know we said this was a Brom, and it's not. The Brom is actually shorter, and hopefully we can see this. That's the Brom or Brougham or whatever you want to call it, and this is the 5-passenger sedan. This is the one I've got, so it's not quite the same car. And that was the first thing. And the other thing, this is actually a listing of all the cars that exist, supposedly, that they know of anyway. And that's actually my car. And this was listed as being, now this was printed in 2000, so it was probably done in 99 or something, but it listed as being on the West Coast, and it was being restored. So it evidently was just never finished, and that's how I'm getting it unfinished. And I don't know what was actually done, what wasn't, but you know, they're showing that there's 61 of these that, you know, in this book known to exist. But a lot of them, if you go and look, they're counting these. You know, only a identification tag remains, and then here's one. He talks about it may be improper to put in here because it's just a parts car. There's really nothing left of it. And some of the cars he lists here is cars he knew about maybe in the 70s, but he don't know where they're actually at now. And here's one, only a parts book survives. Another one, only a parts book survives. So, you know, various well, I'm not going to say various conditions because there's really not even a car there. So, you know, I'm guessing probably 30 maybe of these things that are actually still together. And this actually counts the Pratt and Pratt's cars, which was the car that was before the Elcar. They didn't actually start the Elcar until 1915 or 1916. I think it was 15, and then the ones before that were different. But anyway, I wanted to videotape getting it. I paid, you know, a little extra and got it in enclosed trailer, and we're waiting for it. So should be here in a little bit, and I'm going to try to videotape that. So I kind of needed a place to put my car when it gets here, and of course I'm not finished. But Noah and I and my son and Bobby come by for a little bit, and we set this up. Long time ago, I went up to Nashville, North Carolina, which was, I don't know how many miles it is, probably 100 miles or more, and hauled back a big lathe for a guy. And when I say a big lathe, it weighed about 12,000 pounds. But anyway, this is what he gave me for hauling it. These two beams with the legs, and well, of course the back one. And it all was, it's never been put together. But now this was actually a guy that worked at one of the higher ups at Steel and Pipe, the company where I buy my steel at. This was leftover stuff. These are actually, they're from here to here, that's 27-inch bridge timbers, or bridge beams, I'm sorry, but bridge beams that he had designed and they cut out. And this is just going to be a, like I said, just a sort of a carport. It's a little overboard and heavy duty, but the walls here is 10 foot, and then it goes up too. So this thing, you can see my forklift. It's way taller than a forklift, but I mean it's actually tall enough to be 2-story. But that's the way they built it, or the way they designed it. So the poles I actually had bolted together and was using them for a trailer for a long time, but I didn't weld to them or anything. That way I could use them back for the building when I was ready. And this is actually mobile home frame that I've welded in between it just to hold it. And so we've been busting our butts, you know, trying to, we actually set this whole thing up yesterday. And all I've got right now out this way to weld with is this Miller Blue Flyer. It's just a 140, and but it, you know, it does fine. I've got to do some work on it, but I mean it does run and weld fine. Generator works, but anyway, we're going to get some beams up on top of this thing, get them welded down, and get some tin on it. I'm not going to close the sides in, at least not for now. But like I said, I just needed a place to store my car here. I put my wife actually me and Noah done it about, I don't know, a month ago or almost a month ago. We put one of the two car carports up for my wife, and one side of it my grandson has his sandbox and all that. The other side my wife parks, so I can actually borrow it if I need to, you know, long enough to park my car in until I get this roof done. But I've got all the tin and everything. I've got everything to finish this up, but just got to have time to do it. So but anyway, still waiting on the car. Should be here like I said, in just a little while. Move a few things around so we can get it up this way. Yeah, and also too, I wanted to show this piece here. That's 1/2-inch plate. That piece up the top is 5/8, and I think that's 8 inches wide, top and bottom. So that's a lot of 1/2-inch plate up there. So them are some heavy beams, and I actually fired up the Peterbilt yesterday and extended the boom out on it. You know, it's got mechanical, you know, extendable booms, and that's what we set these up with, or set this one up with. This one here, we started with the Peterbilt, and we ended up finishing it up with Bobby's crane. So anyway, my hydraulic records wouldn't go high enough, so, and I don't know how high that is, but if I'm guessing it's probably 18 feet to the top, maybe a little bit more. So, all right, plenty high enough for a lift, but you know, like I said, this is, for now, this is definitely just a carport. We're not going to close the sides in or anything, and maybe we will later, but all right, car should be here shortly.
Great. You ready to see the car?
Yeah. They didn't let us take no pictures in there. But I got video of me driving it though.
Whoa!
There she is.
Look at Ellen.
Hey, let me just
I was going there.
You gotta watch Papa.
This piece here is kind of loose. I don't know if you want to take it off and hold on to it or not. You don't want to lose this end piece right here.
Sure.
Okay, good. Just unstrap it.
What's your name, Papa?
I like it. I like it better when we get that.
So you got your business side figured out pretty good, aren't you?
Oh yeah, I've been business since '95.
Right here? That's nice. Yeah, I was in the Army then. I've been doing other things, man. After I retired, I ran a club for a while.
Oh, yeah?
That didn't work out too well.
How you liking out there out there?
I'm stuck there, man. I got a little scenery out there. My kids in college out there.
I'm stuck here.
I mean, I tried to come back. My family live out there in the Outer Banks out there.
Oh yeah?
Been trying to come back, but my wife, you know, she's want nothing to do with the ocean. I tried over and over and over. Out there in Nags Head, Kildover Hills. You know, yeah. I got some family out there. Yeah. I'm gonna walk around to the back one. Get this thing out. What you doing?
What's going?
I like how long the hood is.
Yeah.
Ooh, get back. Stainless in real good shape. It's been cleaned up. Huh? Come on.
What is that?
I like it.
That was the best one I've had. All right, nice. All right, sir.
Thank you, bud.
Yes, sir. I'm heading down to Fayetteville with our BB Ladies and say hi to some friends.
Well, have fun and
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man, this reminds me of some old days, man, back out here, man.
yeah.
You've been here since 99.
No, 89.
Yeah, I started drinking. That's very nice, man. Well, that's very good. I left Fayetteville.
He's already trying to get in it.
84.
Yeah.
You like it, Graydon?
No, Mama, no, this one.
You want to go inside?
Yeah.
Well, hold on. Papa let you see inside.
All right, you guys enjoy. Have a great week.
Yeah, we have a safe trip.
All right, guys. I'll leave it to him to show you the rest. I'll leave it to you, Daddy. I'm happy for you, buddy. Proud of you. We love you.
I'll have to jump it off, but it'll start wrong. Get out.
I'm gonna get you. Give me the car.
What are we looking at, buddy?
Give me.
Show me what we're looking at.
I want to see real.
The wheels?
Yeah. What is that?
That's the motor.
What is this?
The engine.
Oh,
You like the wheels?
what is that?
Big headlights?
What is that?
Big headlight?
What is that?
Bumper?
What is that?
Fender?
What is that?
I don't know.
What is that?
Okay, folks, following morning, I figured I'd do a little bit of video on this and show you a few things I learned and just look it over. I did take the pressure washer and lightly go over try to knock the dust off. Looks pretty good. Found the oil can. It was laying in the back in the boxes there of parts. I did figure out that basically what the deal is on this is the conclusion that we've come to is they were restoring this car in the early 2000s. 2000 was when the book was printed. It said it was being restored. I found some new parts or parts that were replated that were wrapped in newspaper from 2003. So, it looked like the fellow was working on it. And evidently, I'm assuming he passed away, and this was, of course, inherited by somebody else, and they sort of acted like they had plans to do something with it, according to the posts on the internet, and then they just up and sold it. So I bought this from the actual dealer that bought it. And anyway, what we've got, after looking it over really good last night with flashlight all up under it and through it, actually a really, really nice car. As nice as I expected, easily, as nice as I expected. A few things on it that has been done that, I don't know if it's good or bad, but of course I don't like the glass fuel filters. I seen an earlier picture that it didn't have that fuel filter, it had a different style. It does have the vacuum fuel pump, which I'm not familiar with, so I've got to do some research on that. And battery is actually up in it. It's brand new. It cranks over. Of course, there's no gas in the filter, so there's no gas to the carburetor. Carburetor. This has got a Schrebler. It shouldn't have. It should have a Swan carburetor. It does have the Swan intake, like it's supposed to have. But it don't have the Swan carburetor. But I was looking in the boxes in the back seat and I found the original Swan carburetor. So I'll show you that here. Okay, here's the Swan. You can see it's actually got a Swan on it. And there is the Schrebler, which they've got on it. Now, as you can see, somebody has, looks like done some work on this one. JB Weld or something, epoxy. So evidently it had some issues. Not a big deal, not a problem. I can run this carburetor here. These are actually, much simpler carburetor. So we'll run it and we'll save this one. Now the difference is going to be between this carburetor and the Swan carburetor. The Swan carburetor, there's a lever on the dash. You could adjust your fuel mixture, rich and lean, as you're driving. You'd run rich at a lower RPM and through town, and then you would lean it out as you got going down the highway. And you know, that's it'd been nice to be able to do that, but you know, we can't do it. The linkage is actually down there to hook that up, but it's not a big issue. So we'll just run it the way it is now. The advanced works on the distributor at the center of the steering wheel. One thing I did notice is this two-bladed fan is supposed to be a four-bladed fan. So we will take that off, and I will find a fan. You know, don't have to match it, but I mean, close to it, and we'll machine it, whatever we got to do to make it bolt on. You know, it'll be hard to ever tell that that's not original, but I definitely want to do that. Radiator in really good shape. Looks a little weird here because it's wet and dry. Got a lot of dust, I guess. Out there where it was, it must have been a dusty place. So, get the cap off. I don't know if you can see in there, probably can't see in there, but it's actually full of antifreeze. So that's always nice. So we've got no radiator issues or anything like that. Like I said, the lights have either been replated or polished, or they're in really nice shape, along with the grill. The surround is a little bit dirty and a little water on it, but you know, it's restoration quality, let's just put it that way. And now as for the engine, we're not going to do any repainting or anything like that. It looks fine to me. You know, it actually looks more original than what it would be if it was restored, because it's got a little bit of wear and patina on it. It's not a big deal. So we won't be messing with that. We're going to get it fired up. No brakes. Okay. This threw me for a loop when I seen them, because I didn't realize that they were not drum brakes. They're band brakes. And I'll show you that. All right, hopefully you'll be able to see. We're up under the back. And these are the bands, outer bands. These bands have been replaced. They look new. The wheel cylinders actually look new, clean. And it just works off a lever. The wheel cylinder is here. It pushes the lever pulls the band. It's a really simple setup. Evidently they don't drag bad, because we was able to push this car and roll it pretty easy. But worst comes to worst, I could re-sleeve. I mean, there's a few different ways I could do this. I could re-sleeve these wheel cylinders if they're in bad shape inside. Now these brakes have been redone, but it's set, so I don't know, you know, what kind of condition they're going to be in. But like I said, worst comes to worst, I can either re-sleeve these and rebuild them, you know, just hone them, build them, whatever I need to do there. Or I can actually make an adapter to bolt, where you get these two bolts, to adapt another wheel cylinder in place of it. So I'll just make a bracket that bolts to the or to an aftermarket wheel cylinder, or another wheel cylinder, and then bolts to here. So I mean, that would be worst case scenario. So I mean, we could actually update it with a newer style wheel cylinder, you know, something from even the 90s, 2000s, whatever. Body is just mint on it. I mean, there's absolutely no rust anywhere. No rust underneath. Very few little dings and dents, you know, places where the tire might have threw a rock up, you can feel a little bit of a ding, stuff like that. Besides that, that's really good shape. Has a heater on it like I'd never seen. Well, I say I've seen Volkswagen heaters, but this is, of course, predates that by a long time. But let me get the floor out where I can show you the heater system. Okay, this is the heater system. As you can see, the exhaust runs through at the bottom, and then this has a valve. When you pull up on it, it diverts the exhaust through this smaller pipe at the top and comes through, and there's an inlet on this sitting on the floor. It goes in, and then it goes back out, and then it goes to another one of these in the back. Now this is cast iron. The way it's set up, you know, I looked it over good, you know, because the first thing I thought, well, you don't want carbon monoxide in your car, but I don't think it's possible. the way that they've set it up with this pan, and this is a galvanized pan, and they've got it running through tight, and this is being cast iron. Unless one of these actually cracked or something like that, you would have issues. But I think that's a really neat setup, neat way to do that. Once it comes out, it goes to the back floorboard, and I'll show you what goes over these. I'll stick this floor back on, and this lever mounts in the floor, and you pull it up and move it over and latch it, and that's how you get the how you turn the heat on and off, just through a chain in the floor. So, all right, let me lay this floor back in and I'll show you. Okay, these were actually in the cardboard, or in the newspapers I was talking about earlier, and these vents bolt down above them the heater. So once you get the floor done, you put them in, and that covers it. I think they're chrome plated, and I think it should be nickel, but I don't think it is nickel, but you know, not a big issue with me. And but I thought the heat was neat, front heat and rear heat. Don't know how well it would work, but I mean, I would think it would work pretty good. You know, heat does rise. So. But anyway, it does have heat. Okay, some of the other parts that have been re-chromed or chromed, I don't think that's nickel. It might be, but I'm not sure. Was like this windshield bracket piece. Show you where it goes. It actually bolts in there and bolts to the bottom of the sun visor. This is I think this is the last year that they put the roof visor in where it was made to the car. I know they had other models that didn't have that, but after looking at all these parts, got a mess of them. You know, I think everything's here. We got inner door handles that are actually solid brass. There's another one. Got some designs on them. I like the way they're made. We've got our spare tire mount for the back. A lot of odds and end parts here that some I've got to find out for sure where they go. Some, you know, I know. Let me see. There's our float for our gas tank. Yeah, and this is newer. This might have been something that he was going to adapt to it, because it says 49 to 52 passenger Chevrolet, $20. So this may have been something that was going to get adapted to it. Which, let me see, I don't see a fuel gauge in it. I don't know what would have went over that hole. Oh, I do see a fuel gauge in it. It does have a fuel gauge. Matter of fact, I'll show you. I've got the battery unhooked now, but the amp gauge and everything works. Here's the fuel gauge on this side. I hope this thing's focusing in here. Let me see. You still can't see it. There you go. Anyway, there's the fuel gauge. So it definitely had one. But I'll finish going through all these parts. One of the things that makes me wonder about that fuel pump, that vacuum pump, is here was a brand new electric that was in this box, and it's 6 volt. So they may have been going to put an electric pump on it and do away with that vacuum pump. So we may do that before it's over with, you know, if it's something I can hide. Interior, like I said, all of it's going to have to be redone. Now, as for the top, you know, this is the thing where most people, including myself, get kind of worried. It's usually like the fear of the unknown. You know, this has got a sort of a vinyl top that goes on it. This wood is not bad. I mean, there's some places you know, it's going to have to be glued and nailed and some work done. But that vinyl goes all the way over this, unlike a lot of cars that have metal there. And I don't know how the transition at the end is done. If it's, you know, brought over and maybe partially mounted up the bottom, I don't know. But, you know, the fear of the unknown is what usually scares people away from stuff. And I don't let that do anything to me, because I always know that, you know, this stuff was done in the 20s, and if they were able to do it in the 20s, I mean, I should be personally able to do it now. So we'll just figure out how it's done and go from there. And like I said, the two spares or single spare or double spare, which either way you want to do it, mount back here. These are supposed to be nickel plated. These are supposed to be nickel plated, and these would be painted black. So luckily I learned how to nickel plate, and that nickel plating I done on that engine has held up really well. So we will be doing some nickel plating ourselves. And you know, I'm not, as most of you know, I'm not into shiny painted cars that much, but I want to bring this one back to a shiny painted car. And my grandson really liked it too, so he ran around, you know, looking at it amazed. But got a friend of mine coming by today that he's actually done the wood in these cars. Not an Elcar, of course, but Oldsmobiles. He done a couple Pontiacs, so he can give me a lot of tips on this stuff and help me out. So you know, if it's something you can't read and learn, you know, you just hunt somebody up, find somebody to help you. But yeah, all the brakes was done on it. The brake lines, the rubber lines, one coming from the rear and the two from the wheels. The one from the rear don't look very good, but believe it or not, they actually offer them brake hoses for sale, which I could probably get the bill at the hydraulic shop to make them. But anyway, but the main thing I got to do now is figure out how to get some fuel up there to the fuel filter, carburetor. I've even got the hand crank for it too. We might start it later that way. What do you think? But be a good time to break my arm and be out of work, right? But anyway, I just got to figure out this vacuum. I don't know if there's a way of priming it or what. I don't want to crank it over, you know, for a long time, and so we'll see what's best. I might, you know, run on the internet, do a little studying on that. And another thing on this, all the glass is perfect. Needs clean, but there's no, you know, white in between it or bubbles or anything like that. So there's no glass, you know, issues. Like there's a little bit of dings and stuff there, but overall, I'm very, very happy with it. It's absolutely what I was wanting. You know, it's a bigger car. Back seat, as you can see, there's plenty of room in here. Yeah, the floors, it goes a long ways, and then the seat's clear back there. So, and so like I said, the seat, I don't like that material. I don't think that's an original material. It might be, but I don't like it. So, you know, all that'll get changed, and we'll redo everything we need to redo. We'll get the wood, you know, straighten out however we need to do it. And like I said, you know, I'm not jumping right on this to do it. I know I've seen a couple of posts where everybody thinks that that's what I'm going to do, but I don't have any plans for that. I've got some plans to do a lot of studying and a lot of learning about how to do something before I jump on it and do it. So that's what we're going to do. And I've got to find out about, you know, what running boards this thing had. Did it have wood? Did it have something else? The first pictures I've seen of it, the earliest pictures I've seen of it in the book that I've got, looked like it had gray running boards. So I don't know if this was something that was replaced. I don't know. I have no clue. I do have the rubber that goes on top of these running boards. There's a whole row of it brand new in here. But I don't know how the edge would be done, because if you look, it's up even with the fender here, but it's higher than the fender there. So I want to figure out what the deal is. It looks like it may curve back a little bit and be lower right there, like this back should be up higher. May try to get a hold of the guy that wrote that book, Mr. Locke, and see what, you know, get some information from him. I mean, that'd be a real good way of finding out some of this stuff. But I'll quit babbling on, and like I said, I appreciate everybody watching, and it's here. we're going to, I'm going to probably get it fired up where I can drive it around and borrow my wife's carport long enough until I get the get these beams up here. I've got 3-inch angle, and we're going to do some supporting, and we'll get the 10 on it. And for now we got a happy little tire swing. But anyway, we'll have more videos on this coming up, and you'll be seeing a video on the drag car here real soon. I've been working on and just about finished with the cobalt and a few other things, so still more videos coming. But I appreciate everybody watching, and I'm glad to have my car. Till next time, bye.